match tray here again with a battle featuring the Nelson in Islands of Ice domination mode. And the Nelson is a tier 7 premium British battleship that you can get for, I believe it's 375,000 free experience. And she is a ship that I have come to love and enjoy in her own way. So, in starting off this match, you can see that we are already bottom tier. So keep this in mind, as that will entail what situations we find ourselves in here in a little bit. But I've been wanting to do this a video just on the Nelson in general, just to talk about her. Some players have been asking, should I get her? Should I just skip and wait until I get to Alaska? Is she worth the amount of free XP? So on and so forth. So, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about the Little White Mouse's review on the Nelson, because I feel like he sums up a few things quite well versus what I could say. So, a quick summary on her is that she's a slow Royal Navy battleship with all of her guns mounted forward on the bow. Her repair party consumable can allow her to come back from the dead twice over. Now this review is written August 10th through 14th of 2017, so some things may have changed. But as far as pros and cons, starting with pros, the White Mouse lists powerful repair party consumable restoring up to 40% of the ship's hit point per charge, good armor protection versus American AP bombs, good 1.9 sigma value which helps tighten up her dispersion, flexible gun layout, able to switch fire from port to starboard very quickly, short fuse timers on her AP shells leading to less over penetrations, and ridiculous HE performance with 101mm of penetration, high alpha strike, and a 46% chance of starting fires per shell. And as far as I know, all those things are the same. Cons, she feels blind with no consumables to aid in spotting, such as plane, radar, hydro. Her citadel sits high over the waterline, a lackluster penetration values comparable to HMS Warspite at tier 6, slow turret traverse at 4 degrees per second, and her anti-aircraft firepower is concentrated in short range and excessively fragile batteries. Nelson is slow with a maximum speed of 24 knots and has a large surface section of 15.3 kilometers, but you can use Concealment Expert and get that down to 13.4. HMS Nelson is the last of the so-called Big 7 battleships to find their way into World Warships. These were the battleships of the United States, Japan, and Great Britain that were allowed to be armed with 16-inch guns under the Washington Naval Treaty after World War I to put an end to the naval arms race. They consisted of the Nagato's class, represented by Nagato Mitsu, the Colorado class of 3 ships, Colorado, Maryland, and West Virginia, and Nelson class with Nelson and her sister ship, HMS Rodney. Of the 7 vessels, the Nelson class are certainly the standouts where design is concerned. There's no denying that their silhouette is very distinctive. When play testing her, I see many comments about her looks, often derisive, but a few people had the right of it and called her awesome looking. So I can say that her playstyle is as distinctive as her appearance. Let's go into the hows and wherefores of the performance in the game. Now, his reviews are very long, but they're very detailed. And you're seeing here that I'm already using the great damage repair party and how quickly she heals, but also how much damage she can regenerate. So let's see, let's go down here to the end. So his overall impressions, the skill floor, the Nelson is really going to punish novice players. They're going to make mistakes and Nelson is going to slap them around for it. Her armor needs a subtle touch to be angled properly. Spamming HE doesn't generate great damage numbers. Her AP will bounce a lot at ranges. She's too slow and too big to easily extract herself from troublesome situations or to position herself where she's needed most. The skill ceiling, in the hands of an expert, Nelson becomes a different beast altogether. She will just not die. Proper management of her repair party will have her coming back from the dead twice over, ensuring that her team can have a near full health battleship late in the game even after taking a ton of damage. Similarly, proper ammunition use can pay enormous dividends. Her carry potential is limited by her slow speed and lack of vision control, however. So in summary, Mouse says she's like a zombie. Without a headshot to put her down for good, she'll keep rising from the grave. Her HE shells are a hella fun to use, but it's a mistake to rely on them heavily. You'll kick yourself for every time you have HE loaded and some dumb cruiser or battleship suddenly offers up her broadside. She does not up tier as well as Nagato, Gneisenau, or Scharnhorst. The ship is so much fun. And I definitely agree that the Nelson does not up tier very well at all. So you can see I've been struggling a little bit here in the beginning of the match. I'm already spamming 2 heals now just to stay alive. And I really agree with everything that Little White Mouse says about the Nelson. One of the fun things about her is that you'll typically find yourself printing fireproof and dreadnought medals over and over, which I can definitely say that was true for myself with several battles I played, as well in this battle match with a dreadnought. And you mostly do want to fire those HE shells, but you also want to have the AP shells. So honestly, taking Expert Loader I would highly recommend. Now I don't have Expert Loader yet. I haven't invested a ton of time into my Nelson. I have a 10-point the Azure Lane Commander on the Nelson right now, because by the time you try to switch shells with that reload time, the cruiser or battleship that was showing you broadside could just be completely angled away and your AP is worthless. So my overall impressions of the Nelson is that you do not want to be the first ship in line leading your team into the mid cap zone area. She really works best in groups because you need to have destroyers around you, and also cruisers are really helpful because she's just not a ship that stands out, for example, like the Massachusetts or German battleships like Bismarck. Granted those are tier 7, but she just really doesn't stand out by herself. She works best in groups, and having your allies to rely on is really helpful. So between having this Alaska here and then the Oland is helpful. Now I keep looking off to my right because I keep waiting for this Missouri to reappear, because I'm assuming that the Missouri is just going to send me into the next map, the next match. But if you did notice, I should have commented on that, I spaced that, but before that Brindisi went down, I could see that he was getting ready to aim torpedoes at me, as the priority target went from 1 to detected to 1 to detected to 1, and I immediately knew he was firing torps, so we backed up and straightened out there. But now I want to turn back in to face the Missouri. Now, my issue here, what I think Noster talks a lot about with the Nelson, is that the Nelson works really well when you are angled away from the enemy, as you can really better bounce those AP shells fired by tier 7 or higher battleships, because, like as the Little White Mouse said, her bow is just incredibly weak. And if you can penetrate through the bow, there's a good chance that you can actually hit her citadel through the front, maybe that you find through the deck, because her bow is only 26 millimeters. So to say that I'm nervous right now with the Missouri is overrated. I really don't know what the Missouri is going to do, and I'm surprised that he's not focused fired on me yet. Because of my HP being at 20,000, he seems to be a little more distracted with his Oland, but also I'm not sure if he's paying attention to the Alaska and the Shikaku. So right now I'm just going to focus on the HE spamming. As you can see, he's angling in. Yeah, he's going for the Alaska there. But if the Missouri just focus and just shoot right through my bows with her guns, I probably already been dead between the 2 salvos that he's already fired. So Not sure what he is thinking. Now he's on death's door, and this would have been a great opportunity to use AP, but there's no sense of switching since she's about to go down. So we're going to take care of that. And then we're going to go look at Bravo Cap. The challenge with the Nelson. And this is why I typically don't follow Noster's advice in angling your ship away and then just firing back behind you, is because of how slow she is and how poor her maneuverability is. Because if you're taking on 2 or 3 ships and as soon as they die, the rest of your team just charges on to the next group, and then you have to turn around and with your, is it like 23 knot speed? We'll see what I get up to here. It just takes forever to get caught back up with the rest of your team. So yeah, so we can see we're already pushing over 23 knots now. Now for myself, I really like the Nelson. I really enjoy playing her. She takes a little bit getting used to, and as the little white mouse said, when it comes to a novice player handling her, it can be very punishing, but in the hands of a skilled player, she can do quite well, because a lot of what comes down to the Nelson is managing her damage repair party and healing party. That is going to be your saving grace, as they keep coming back from the dead without the headshot. The Nelson will just keep rising up from the grave over and over again. So yes, those are mostly my thoughts of what I wanted to say on the Nelson as a whole. It's going to be kind of slow here as we finish off the last of the enemy team. Because I'm so far over here, and my range for the Nelson is 18.2, because you don't get that spotter plane. There's no option to really increase her range. The targets you're going to have in the Nelson are going to be limited, because she's not a battleship that you can just play solo and just take on a couple of ships by yourself because of her poor armor, and also if you get bottom tier like in this match, you're really going to be kicking yourself. And as well as her AA is really not impressive at all. It's like a 5.5 kilometer range, and she's just very weak. So you can be singled out quite well by a carrier that is focus and concentrate on you if you, for example, get left behind, or if you go charging without your teammates. So you really want to have that group mentality when playing the Nelson, because she's just not a good battleship that plays well by herself. So having this Oland with me has been good. The Iowa went down and the Suark's knocking on death's door. And I think here I compliment the Shikaku. Yeah, I think it's a Shikaku. I complimented because he was quite the helpful player in this match. But yeah, this was a good game. It was nothing really fancy. I mean, you can notice we set 11 fires. We've done 108,000 damage, and we'll get a little bit more damage here on the end when the carrier pops back into the scene. You know, only 3 secondary hits, and we've only shot down 2 planes. But with the incapacitations, as you could see, some of the battleships I was firing at earlier with the HE was really punishing the AA guns on battleships. As there's a couple times where you saw the AA gun symbol appear after an HE shell hit, just wrecking these sides of battleships and really limiting them of their AA. So that really helps if you have a divisioned up, or not divisioned up, but you have a carrier on your team. It can really help the survivability chances of your CV teammate. But yes, I had another thought, but I honestly just forgot it. Oh yeah, but as far as the damage and what we've done, you know, we've destroyed 2 ships. We've done 108,000 damage so far. So I was actually surprised at the end of the match where we end up ranking, because I wouldn't thought we would have ranked where we ranked. Because she's a ship, again, that works well in groups, But even though she doesn't stand out, if you play her well as a supporting ship and just focusing on where she's needed most, um, she can be a very capable ship, like the Little White Mouse says. So as you can see, we're kind of limited here. We can't fire at the Implacable because of our 18.2 range. So we're going to be seeking to draw a little bit closer to her. Oh, and another thing to keep in mind with, we've sort of notated on it already, as her three big flaws being her citadel is too high, she's blind, and she's too slow. And that's something that you really want to watch for when you're playing the Nelson, especially when I'm in my Massachusetts and I'm top tier, and I see a Nelson or New Mexico on the enemy team. They are my favorite ships to shoot at because of how slow they are, and especially with the Nelson how high her citadel hits. Now you could be arguing that I should be using armor piercing here, but I thought for funs and laughs it'd be fun to maybe set some more fires, even though the damage repair party is instantly activated. And as soon as the Implacable would angle, the AP shells would just bounce. They don't have a high penetration damage value, especially when I've noticed when I've loaded AP armor piercing and I fired at, or not like the Colorado, but like a Massachusetts, like a Geyser now, the armor piercing has just let me down a lot. So you really want to make sure you have that flat broadside to get those great penetration damage values. And her AP shells, they ignite a bit more quicker with those British battleship shells versus like the standard you'd have on an Iowa or just American battleships in general. So you can see here that we ended with 114,000 damage, and in that battle, forgot it caught me off guard because we just ended up winning on points. But we did 50 shell hits, 5 incapacitations, 2 destroyed, and 17 set on fires, and you can see that we got the Dreadnought medal. Now I did have the free XP flag mounted as I was needing it for the task for a campaign. So we got 2,495 and 5,554. Now, granted that you've just seen the battle that we've seen and how I talked about that I didn't expect to rank the post-battle results as high as I did. Yeah. I was not expecting to take the top place. I expected more like third or fourth, because the Shiratsu did very good. But we had 2,185 base experience with the Dreadnought medal, and the enemy Implacable, he did a really good job, all things considered. So yeah, so she's a ship that will surprise you in how well she will perform, and where you think she may rank lower in the post-battle results, she can often rank higher. So you can see that most of our damage was done to the Missouri. Fire medic and spamming him with HE shells. So it did a lot of damage to him, and also that the Swedish destroyer, and I'm not even going to know how to pronounce that one, the Ostervoltland? I should know if I'm in Norway, right? Yes. And we ended with 416,000 credits with the premium account. So she's a ship that prints credits relatively well. So overall, I hope you liked the impressions, this review, and giving on the Nelson. It wasn't so much a detailed review on the Nelson, but I've been wanting to do one on her for a while now. And also I want to talk more about the Nelson's history as a battleship. Granted, she doesn't have too much going on compared to her sister ship, the HMS Rodney, but I'd like to tell you more about those two battleships' history, so I'm hoping to do, maybe in another week or two, have a video of just playing a battle and then just telling you about the fun history that these ships had. And as a spoiler, the HMS Rodney and the HMS Nelson both had torpedoes on them. So even though we don't have those on her in the game, as it was asked by players, is the HMS Nelson going to have torpedoes? To which Wargaming said nope. So I hope you liked today's video, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more, and if you have already subscribed, you have my appreciation and thanks. But until next time, take care.